to believe, but it's been almost 20 years, 2 whole decades, since ECW went out of business. That's over twice as long as the company as we know and love it as Extreme Championship Wrestling with Paul Heyman at the helm was actually in business for. Though not operational for as long as other promotions before or since, few groups have been as influential or have left a legacy as strong as this small Philadelphia-based band of outlaws and renegades. Hell, there is a good reason why fans still speak glowingly about ECW and promoters continue to attempt to cash in on its name. Fans have fond memories of the outlandish angles, the cutting-edge in-ring work, and, of course, the colourful cast of characters that the outfit produced. Something of a star-making factory, ECW allowed previously unheralded performers to thrive by accentuating the positives and hiding the negatives, turning them into stars that were inevitably snapped up by their competition, including WWE. A great many of those, Steve Austin, Rob Van Dam, the Dudleys, Rhino, Tajiri among them, were able to succeed on wrestling's biggest stage. Others, whether it was due to backstage politics, injuries, or other various factors, weren't so lucky. Big fishes in a relatively small pond, the following ECW standouts fell short of expectations when they made the move to Stamford, Connecticut. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 ECW stars who flopped in WWE. Join us. Number 10, The Public Enemy. Rivals on the independent circuit, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock were paired up by ECW visionary Paul Heyman as The Public Enemy, the hip-hop loving and table-breaking duo who danced their way to the ring before engaging in wild arena-wide brawls. The team quickly became one of the hottest acts in the company and routinely headlined shows between 93 and 96 before being gobbled up by one of the companies competing in the Monday Night Wars. Though they had an offer to join WWE, The Public Enemy opted instead to go and work for WCW, where they had a mildly successful run between 96 and 98. After that, it was finally time to go and work for Vince McMahon's company, where the Extreme team would surely thrive in the Wild West of the Attitude Era. Didn't quite happen that way, as the Enemy only lasted a couple of months before they were booted out, quite literally, after a match against the Acolytes on Sunday Night Heat turned into an actual shoot. Legend goes that Grunge and Rock didn't want to go ahead with the planned finish of being put through a table, and when they brought it up with Bradshaw and Simmons, they got their heads caved in before being shown the door. Damn. Number 9, Shane Douglas. The so-called franchise had a couple of stabs at working for WWE, and neither of them quite worked out as he would have liked them to. Douglas, who had a couple of decent runs in WCW as well, wrestled for WWE in 1990 and 91, working mainly lower card matches against esteemed opposition like the Brooklyn Brawler and Black Bart. After an impressive showing in the 91 Royal Rumble, Douglas would leave the company in order to care for his ill father. He would return in 1995, but in the interim, he had found his feet as the heel World Heavyweight Champion of ECW, holding the belt for a lengthy 385 days and causing a stir when he threw down the NWA World title in a controversial angle that only he and ECW higher-ups knew about. Coming back into the fold during the New Generation, Douglas was of course saddled with a cringeworthy gimmick, becoming Dean Douglas, a villainous college dean who carried a paddle to the ring and tried to teach fans lessons with the aid of a chalkboard. Great stuff. The character certainly deserved attention, and Douglas wasn't helped by injuries and issues with backstage masterminds The Click, going back to the hardcore promised land after 6 miserable months. Number 8, Danny Doring and Roadkill. In the final months of ECW's existence, the company were forced to give opportunities to new and unproven talents, since the Big Two had signed just about every one of their top stars. One of the few highlights of the time was the unlikely team of Danny Doring and Roadkill, an Amish warrior and a womanizer who had managed to seduce Miss Congeniality, aka a pre-Lita Miss Amy Dumas. A young and exciting tag team, Doring and Roadkill had some great matches against teams like the Impact Players and the FBI, and actually held the ECW tag team titles until the company went bankrupt in March of 2001. WWE didn't opt to sign them for the invasion, but did give them a call when they rebooted the ECW brand in 2006. They didn't bring them to be a team, however, because that would have made a little too much sense. Doring made only a handful of appearances as an enhancement talent, losing to CM Punk and Mike Knox before being released. Meanwhile, Roadkill made one notable television appearance, losing to Sabu, before reporting to OVW while WWE figured out what the hell to do with him. Which, as it turned out, was absolutely nothing, except for taking away his gimmick, as he was quietly released in early 2008. And to think Bruce Pritchard had once pitched him as an opponent for The Undertaker. True story. Number 7, Mike Awesome. Another big man with big talent was Mike Awesome, the former ECW champion who could move around and perform moves like the best of 205 Live. Awesome, who also enjoyed a lot of success working in Japan, left ECW on somewhat less than stellar terms, walking out and showing up on WCW Nitro while still their champion, leaving the loyal disciples of Heyman baying for blood. I mean, Awesome was owed a lot of money and was working without a contract and thus totally justified in signing for a company that would actually pay him a guaranteed salary, but let's not let facts get in the way of weird wrestling history. Awesome may have been paid well in WCW, but creatively he was starved, saddled with the gimmicks of That 70s Guy and the Fat Chick Thriller, two potentially career-ending duds. He was hired by WWE during the invasion, but besides surprisingly winning the hardcore title on his debut, was mostly relegated to the minor shows when he wasn't out injured. Big Mike also didn't play the backstage political game well, and with noted enemy Paul Heyman now working in the office, his days were numbered. His release was no surprise, and Awesome himself was glad to be let go, but it was certainly a massive shame the way this once amazing performer was so severely underutilized. Number 6, Just Incredible. From awesome to credible, just incredible, which, as Kurt Angle rightly pointed out, sounds like just incredible if you say it fast enough. PJ Polaco had a few go-arounds in WWE, first as the Portuguese man of war Aldo Montoya, a lower card guy named after a jellyfish and wearing a mask that looked like a bright yellow jockstrap. Did that gimmick get over? Did it balls? After that wonderful experience, he landed in ECW where he was pushed hard by Paul Heyman, whether teaming with Lance Storm as the Impact Players or riding high as ECW champion. Though presented as a top star, he wasn't paying his bills due to the company's perilous financial situation and jumped ship to WWE in February of 2001, a month before the SSECW officially sunk. Though the run was better than the first one, he didn't have to wear a crotch protector on his mug this time. His time as a member of X Factor is remembered mainly for that incessantly annoying, or brilliant depending on your personal opinion, theme music. He spent the rest of his WWE days hovering in the background, working on the B shows or as a jobber before being released in late 2002. His return to WWE's version of ECW in 2006 was over before it really began, his main contribution being CM Punk's debut opponent. Number 5, Sabu. He's suicidal, he's homicidal, he's genocidal, he's unemployable. It's Sabu. WWE had actually been after Sabu at various times throughout his career, but he didn't sign until WWE relaunched the ECW brand in 2006. One of ECW's most recognizable stars, Sabu was unlike anyone else in the business and broke ground with his death-defying stunts and weapons-laden matches at a time when those sorts of things simply didn't happen. Road-weary and battle-scarred, Sabu made an instant impact in WWE by targeting Golden Boy John Cena, with the two clashing in a lumberjack match at the Vengeance pay-per-view before setting his sights on Big Show and the ECW title. He was unsuccessful in his chase, though he got a couple of high-profile matches out of it, and before long the man from Bombay, Michigan began his slide down the card. Though a popular performer with the fans, Sabu upset his superiors and caused issues backstage with his attitude and behavior, grumbling about putting other talent over and arriving late to TV tapings. His release in May 2007, less than 1 year after signing with the company, was about as surprising as a Paul Heyman check bouncing. Number 4, Jerry Lynn. A journeyman wrestler who worked all over on the independents, in Japan, and as the masked Mr. JL, try and crack that code for WCW, Lynn was given an overdue opportunity to be a top guy for ECW, joining the league in 1997. Showcasing his abilities with excellent matches against Lance Storm and Just Incredible, it was a celebrated series of outings with Rob Van Dam that really put Lynn on the map and likely played a part in the decision to make the new effing show the ECW champion in 2000. Like many in the company, Lynn left for WWE in April 2001, owed a large sum of money. Winning the light heavyweight title on his first night likely made him feel a bit better, but in truth, that victory was the peak of his run with Titan Sports. All told, Jerry only held the title, never a priority to begin with by the way, for about a month, and made a few appearances on television before injuring his knee and being released while sitting on the sidelines. He'd fallen foul of backstage politics sometime before that, mind you, and saw the writing on the wall when a long and competitive Sunday night heat match against his best opponent, RVD, had almost all of his offense edited out of it come airtime. Number 3, the Sandman. With all due respect to James Fullington, has any wrestler gone as far by doing as little as he has? That's not to discount the beating he put his body through or the miles traveled to make towns, but the Sandman looked like he never worked out, and his matches usually comprised of making a spectacular entrance and twatting somebody in the head with a stick before or after downing a sixer of Bud and smoking a ciggy. I mean, I could wander down to the big market in Newcastle and see the exact same thing any given night if I fancied it. It was a simple but effective act, and the Sandman became a cult hero to ECW fans. It was no surprise then that WWE reached out to him about joining for the relaunch in 2006, and the Sandman became something of a mascot for the fledgling brand. He was a part of the ECW original stable that took on the new breed, made an appearance at WrestleMania 23, and had a feud with Carlito, but something just wasn't the same. Without the famous Metallica song signaling his arrival, on-screen smoking outlawed, and the drinking toned way down, ECW's version of the Sandman was much ado about nothing, and he was released a little over a year after signing his contract. Number 2, Taz. The human suplex machine who tore up ECW rings with his ultra-serious submission and grappling style peaked on his very first night with WWE. Taz left ECW in late 1999 after accomplishing everything he feasibly could, and with the company in a state of flux, opting instead to try his chances with Vince McMahon's organization. Things got off to a perfect start, with Taz debuting to a thunderous ovation from the Madison Square Garden crowd in the opener of the 2000 Royal Rumble pay-per-view, before going on and ending Kurt Angle's undefeated streak in a short but fiery match. After that, Taz could usually be found scrapping over the hardcore or intercontinental titles, though he only won the former, feuded with Jerry Lawler, and won the tag team titles with fellow ECW alumnus Spike Dudley. In an incident that perhaps encapsulates what WWE thought of Taz and ECW as a brand, Triple H easily pinned the Orange and Black Attack in ECW's stronghold Philadelphia just days after he had captured the ECW title in a match with WCW's Mike Awesome at an ECW show. Taz's in-ring career sadly came to an end in 2002 because of injuries. WWE may have dropped the ball with him as a wrestler, but thankfully, Taz was able to enjoy a second successful career as SmackDown color commentator. Number 1, Raven. All credit to Scott Levy, who realized that characters like Scotty Flamingo and Johnny Polo weren't going to take him to the middle of the wrestling world, let alone the top of it, and hit the reset button when he joined ECW in 1994. Going all grunge with a startling makeover, Levy was a performer reborn as Raven, the pierced philosophical nihilist who was intent on causing misery, particularly to his storyline former high school rival Tommy Dreamer. Raven was a hit in ECW and pushed heavily as its world champion, headlining the first ever ECW pay-per-view, Barely Legal, against Terry Funk. WCW soon came a-callin', and Raven had a fine stint there too, before deciding that the grass perhaps wasn't greener and requesting his release. A no-compete clause forbid him from signing with WWE for a year, so he killed time in ECW again before it was up and debuted at Unforgiven 2000, aligning himself with Taz. His hijinks in the hardcore division were cute, but Raven never rose above mid-card status. According to the man himself via Michael Hayes, his fate was sealed when Vince McMahon openly questioned his hiring during a booking meeting. Raven floated around for a while doing a whole lot of nothing before being binned in early 2003. Though there was obvious potential there, Raven's WWE run was certainly nothing to crow about. It's a bird joke. See you next time!